Rising from the dust, a story of resilience. Ethan had always believed that life was a predictable path. He imagined success as a straight line: finish school, get a good job, make friends, find love, and settle into a comfortable life. He had dreams, ambitions, and the confidence of youth. But life doesn't follow lines. Life flows like a river, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, sometimes devastating. Ethan's river turned into a storm. It began slowly, almost imperceptibly. The company he worked for had been struggling, but he thought he was safe. After all, he was competent, loyal, and hard-working. But one rainy Thursday, his manager called him into the office. "We're downsizing." "I'm sorry, Ethan." The words hit him like a punch. Just like that, the security he had built crumbled. Bills loomed, debts multiplied, and opportunities seemed to vanish. Then came the personal blows. Friends who had laughed with him over beers stopped answering messages. His long-term relationship ended, not with anger, but with cold indifference. "I need someone who's stable," she said. And he wasn't. Not anymore. Ethan spiraled. Days blurred into nights. He stopped answering calls. He didn't cook. He barely ate. The once bright apartment felt like a cage. Mirrors became enemies. Every time he looked at himself, he saw failure, loss, emptiness. He hit rock bottom, the kind of bottom where the ground beneath you seems non-existent, where despair is suffocating, and hope is just a memory. One night, Ethan sat on the cold floor, the hum of the city outside seeping through the walls. He felt invisible, insignificant, and utterly broken. For hours, he thought about giving up, about surrendering to the weight of his own life. But somewhere deep inside, there was a whisper, a faint voice that refused to be silenced. "Do one thing tomorrow," it said. Just one small thing. It wasn't a grand declaration. It wasn't a promise to rebuild everything at once. It was almost laughable in its simplicity. But it was enough. The next morning, Ethan wrote down 3 small goals. Take a 15-minute walk outside. Read 1 page of a book. Send a message to 1 friend. That was it. The walk was difficult. His legs ached. He wanted to turn back after 10 minutes, but he kept going. The page he read was a quote about resilience: "A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but its persistence." He didn't understand it fully yet, but it lingered. And when he sent a simple message, "Hey, it's been a while. How are you?" he didn't expect a reply. Yet, within the hour, a friend responded, offering a kind word and a laugh. That tiny connection felt like sunlight piercing a storm. Ethan realized something fundamental: small actions matter. Consistency matters. Life can't be fixed in a day, but it can be repaired, slowly, brick by brick. The next weeks were a test. Some days, he woke up with energy and hope. Other days, he didn't want to get out of bed. Sometimes he walked his usual route and felt invisible eyes of judgment in strangers' glances. Sometimes his apartment flooded from a leaking pipe, destroying a box of cherished belongings. Every setback felt like the universe mocking his efforts. Yet, he persisted. He added 1 more small habit each week. He cleaned his apartment regularly. He started cooking his own meals. He applied for jobs, sometimes 10 in a day, sometimes just 1. Every application sent was a small victory. Every rejection letter, though painful, became a lesson rather than a defeat. He learned to write better resumes, tailor his cover letters, and interview with preparation and honesty. Internally, Ethan wrestled with fear, shame, and doubt. He asked himself questions every day: am I good enough? Will I ever recover? Will life ever feel normal again? But slowly, like water eroding stone, the voice that told him to give up was replaced by another voice, a quieter, steadier one. I am still here. I am still standing. That means I can keep going. Months passed. Ethan didn't notice the change at first. But then one morning, he realized he hadn't stayed in bed all day. He had taken a walk, cooked breakfast, applied for a job, and even helped a neighbor carry groceries. These were small, ordinary actions, but they were proof that he was no longer paralyzed by despair. Then came an unexpected breakthrough. He landed a modest job at a local bookstore. It wasn't glamorous. It didn't pay much. But it was a start. More importantly, it was a symbol of movement, of life returning to him. With this small victory, Ethan began to rebuild larger structures. He managed his finances carefully, saved a little each month, and started volunteering at a local community center. He connected with old friends he had avoided and formed new relationships with people who shared his interests. Slowly, the dark apartment that had once felt like a prison became a home. The mirrors that had reflected only failure now showed a man in progress, a man learning, striving, and persisting. But life, as it always does, tested him again. A sudden illness in the family drained his savings. A project at work failed due to circumstances beyond his control. He could have stopped. He could have returned to despair. But he didn't. He remembered the river. He remembered the simple choice to do one small thing every day. And so, he kept going, one step at a time. The true turning point came quietly, almost imperceptibly, on a cold evening in the bookstore. A customer complimented him on his patience and knowledge. A coworker remarked, "You've really turned things around, Ethan." And he realized he hadn't just survived. He had grown stronger. He had learned self-discipline, resilience, patience, and gratitude. He had learned that setbacks are not the end, they are the soil where growth takes root. Ethan sat quietly that night, looking at the city lights outside the window. For the first time in a long time, he felt pride in his own persistence. He understood a truth that no setback could ever take away. Strength is not measured by how high you climb, but by how you rise after falling. He thought about the months of struggle, the nights of doubt, the days of slow progress. And he smiled. Because he knew now that even when life seems impossible, even when despair feels like the only companion, you are capable of transformation. Ethan's story is not extraordinary because he achieved wealth, fame, or power. It is extraordinary because he chose not to surrender. He chose the small, consistent actions that rebuilt his life. He embraced patience when it was easier to give up. He found gratitude in the smallest moments. And most importantly, he discovered the power within himself that he had always possessed but had nearly forgotten. Life is not about never falling. Life is about the courage to rise. It's about the quiet persistence that no one sees, the tiny victories that eventually add up to transformation. It's about choosing, every single day, to move forward, even when the path is unclear. Ethan's journey is a reminder to all of us, the darkest nights produce the brightest dawns. The moments when we feel weakest are the moments when we have the greatest potential to grow. And no matter how hard life hits, the human spirit has an extraordinary capacity to endure, adapt, and flourish. So if you're reading this and feel like you've hit rock bottom, remember Ethan. Remember the man who had nothing but a whisper of hope and turned it into a life of meaning, discipline, and resilience. Remember that small actions compound into remarkable transformation. Your setbacks do not define you. Your failures are not permanent. Your strength is already within you, waiting to be realized. Keep going. Keep showing up. Keep taking small steps, even when they feel meaningless. One day, you'll look back and realize you've risen higher than you ever imagined. And in that moment, you'll know you were never truly broken. You were only being built.